It's actually the right spot. I'm feeling really good. This is a sacred moment. I'm in sacred social house. I'm with you. We did the grounding. It's feeling good. This is where I'm supposed to be at.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Trip Sitting Podcast, where we explore what it means to be human. On this episode, the amazing human whose life that we explore is Jonathan Quest Brown, aka Quest the Conduit, aka Saucy Sorcerer. And usually in these intros, I try to give like a little recap about what we talked about. But to be completely honest, I really don't love doing that. And also, I record these right after we record. And while I'm recording, I honestly kind of black out during that process. Like, I'm so into what's going on in that present moment and just like trying to listen to them so intently that I don't always remember exactly what was said. So when I record these, I sort of like, I'm just not good at giving that recap and trying to like sell you on the episode. So if you're here, thank you so much for being here. I wouldn't put this episode out if I didn't think that it was worth anybody's time. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope that you enjoy my page. I hope that you're enjoying your life right now. And before we officially dive in, please make sure that you're following me on social media, which is at tripsitting.blog on Instagram and TikTok. And then also, subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss new episodes. And if you feel so inclined, please give it a review. The more reviews that I have, just the higher I can get in the charts, and the more people that I can reach with this, which is really just what I'm trying to do, is just reach people with dope people's stories. So thank you again for coming here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being you. Thank you for being present. And I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I want to take it back to April of this year, to
Mm,
when you got laid off at your tech job,
mm.
and then sort of talk about that moment, and then from there, coming out of the psychedelic closet.
Whew, dude, like, and I appreciate you bringing that up. I know I shared the article with you and you read that. So thank you for taking the time to read that because I know it was pretty lengthy, but I had a lot to say, and dude, I've been like secretly waiting for this moment, to be honest with you. And I've always been in tech my entire life. That's how I pay my bills, take care of my family. And, you know, that moment when my manager reached out to me and was like, "Hey, we want to talk." I kind of had a feeling that something was going to happen because we were kind of already going through a couple rounds of layoffs, and it wasn't just us. I was working at a small startup, but also like Amazon was laying off people like crazy, and a couple other big tech companies laying people off, and that I can remember, you know, meditating before because he hit me up. I'm like, "Yeah, I just need like 10 minutes, just give me like 10 minutes before we meet." And I was a manager myself, so I had a team that I was, taking care of. And dude, in that meditation, the message that I got was like, "You're being moved. You're being moved." And now, you hear that, right? You can take that as I'm going to be moved to another department, right? Or like, am I being moved out the company? But that's all I heard was like, "You're being moved." And I'm so grateful for my connection to spirit that I'm able to get these insights before something happens in my life. It's been multiple times where, in my dreams or in my meditation that I'm given some insight and advice before something happens. So, as I got that message, we hopped on the Zoom, and he was kind of like trying to delay giving me the news. And I like part of me wanted to just be like, "Dude, just go ahead and say it." And I could tell on
Mm-hmm.
his face he didn't want to share the news, and he felt really bad. And he just let me know. And I was definitely I was feeling down. Like, damn, why are they letting me go? Like, you know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? This is like
there's
a
there's like always that, like, the thought in the back of your head, the ego of being like, the like, why me? Like, we we
yeah,
we
dude.
we, we take it as a personal attack, like, even when we know it's not like part of us, whatever part of us that, again, that sort of grew up wanting to please people, wanted to do right, like, that's always going to take it as that personal attack.
Yeah. That's how I definitely took it that way, like in the beginning. And then like as he was telling me like the situation, right? This was the trippy part because he was like, "Yeah, we're letting you go, but I want to let you know that we're going to take care of you, and you have a
Hmm.
couple options." And I'm
Yeah.
like, "What?" Like again, I didn't know this, right? And as he tells me how they're going to take care of me, giving me this runway, I was like, "Oh crap, this is freaking amazing. What am I going to do? Like, am I going to go to a sister company or am I just going to take the time off and focus?" And the crazy part, dude, like at my job, I had a lot of freedom. I worked from home,
Hmm.
but my time and my business in the wellness space and being in the psychedelic space was starting to pick up. So I'm taking on like weekend retreats, week long retreats without even knowing how I'm going to take all this time off. And it just
Yeah.
all worked out. So
Hmm.
from that time, I was like, all right, this is it. I'm just going to focus in the wellness, and the tech will be there, but it's
Hmm.
always going to be there. But like, this is the time to focus on me. And the crazy part, I'll end it here, man. It happened around eclipse season. So
Hmm.
eclipse is all about cutting things off, right?
Yep.
Like we had the eclipse, and like 2 days after, it was like, "Doop, we're moving the job. Here you go."
Damn.
So here we go. This is where I'm at.
So when did Quest the Conduit start? Like when did you really start, I guess, like with that business and putting yourself out there in that way?
Yeah. So it kind of went through three phases, to be
Hmm.
honest with you. Um, it started about 3 years ago, right? But I was going through, I guess I'll call it like an identity crisis, trying to figure out who I'm going to be. Because in the
Hmm.
first 2 years, while I was, doing the work on myself and working with sacred mushrooms in a recreational way and also learning the ceremonial way as well on
Hmm.
my own and like going through my Reiki trainings and whatnot. I was trying to figure out how do I come out to the world, and me being me, especially like working in tech, a lot of the places that I worked at, I had to come out like super professional,
Hmm.
right? At my job. But outside of my job, I'm like, not always. You know what I mean? Like suit and tie professional, right? I'm me. I listen to hip hop. I'm like tatted
Yeah.
up and stuff like that. And I can remember like when I first came out, dude, I tried to be like something out of a magazine, like
Hmm.
how I figured a black man teaching yoga needs to be, and it just wasn't me.
Yeah.
So, I shifted from that to Quest the Yogi.
Hmm.
And then it got to a point where I'm like teaching yoga here in Pittsburgh, PA, because Reiki was actually Reiki is energy healing. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but it was scaring people off. So I
Hmm.
became a yoga teacher to connect with people of color in Pittsburgh, right?
Hmm.
So if I can get you to do yoga, then I can get you to meditate, and then we can talk about Reiki and like other things.
Yeah, it's a tough step for somebody that's maybe not in have any sort of spiritual
Right.
practice whatsoever to go straight to, yo, dude, like let me do an energy healing. They're like, what the
Yeah, they're
fuck
like,
are you talking about?
yeah. No, I'm glad we can cuss. I was wondering
Oh,
that.
for sure,
But
yeah.
no, yeah. Yeah, dude. So that was like the change, and then like as I'm starting to like see where my life is shifting, I remember I had a conversation with a couple of people in my life, and as I was like trying to figure out my brand identity, and they were like, "Hey, you know, you might want to think about changing your name because yoga is not all that you do, right?" I was coming out as like Quest the Yogi,
Hmm.
and um, my lady, super genius when it comes to the branding shit,
Hmm.
dude. She's a fucking genius. She was like, "Yo, you need to just be the conduit, Quest the conduit." And I'm like, "Yo, that's actually kind of fire." You're
Hmm.
right, because I'm a channel for healing, right? Because I'm not doing the healing, but I do more than yoga. Like, I'm channeling. I'm just a conduit for the healing to come through for folks. So that's what it was like, yo, Quest the conduit, because I do so much,
Hmm.
right? It's not just yoga, it's not just Reiki healing, Reiki, it's, hip hop, it's
Yeah.
photography, like it's a lot that I do. So yeah, Quest the conduit, that's how it came. So it's been like 3 years,
When you
like
were when
really
you were more
focusing.
into just like hip hop, like earlier in life, did you have like a hip hop name?
Yeah, so look, this is the other part, right? It's all like tied in. So my hip hop name is John Quest.
Okay. Oh shit,
So
okay.
yeah, and it came from the real adventures of Johnny Quest, the old cartoon from like the 1960s was my
Mm-hmm.
favorite cartoon growing up, right? So again, as I'm becoming a rapper, I'm trying to figure out my name, and I went through like three different ones, and then I was like, dude, I just need to just roll with Johnny Quest.
Mm-hmm.
And in the beginning, I was spelling it a little bit differently, and it was hard for people to pronounce. I was like, look, I'm gonna just shorten it, John Quest. I'm the grown-up version of Johnny Quest, and I'm going through all these adventures in life. So that's what we're rolling with. So that's where it came from. John Quest evolved into like Quest the Yogi, Quest the Conduit, but it's all tied in together.
Yeah, that's awesome. I fucking love that.
Now I appreciate you asking, man. It's funny because I got a small dog, and it's like Bandit. You had the
Mm-hmm.
dog, and like
Oh
it's a
shit.
whole thing. Like,
Everything always comes tied together. So also too, I know that your journey with psychedelics, like it wasn't your whole life. It only started back in 2018 after your mom
yeah,
died, right?
yep, yeah. 2018, man, and actually, in 2 days, it's going to be her death anniversary. I don't know if you want to call it that, but it's the day that she passed away, like October 11th.
Yeah.
So in 2 days, yeah, it all started then, man. Before that, I was fucking terrified to try psychedelics, dude. I smoked weed, I drank,
Hmm.
but I never did anything outside of that. And I had a couple of buddies that experimented with stuff, but it just wasn't anything that I thought I would get into.
Hmm.
And losing my mother is when everything came online, dude. I can remember when she passed away unexpectedly. It wasn't, she was super healthy. She had a heart attack out the blue, dude,
Hmm.
and was gone the very next day. And I can remember I can remember like being with her in the apartment as she's dead, dude. Because I was there with her until the freaking people from the funeral showed up. So I was with
Hmm.
her for hours, right? And like I had to help them put her in the body bag, and like it was just a super crazy experience that I just never thought I would have to go through. And the next day, man, I'm on my couch, crying my eyes out. And my mom starts talking to me clear as day, like you and I are having a conversation. And she's
Damn.
telling me sorry that she had to go and she didn't know. And she's just sorry, like she just didn't know. And I'm like crying my eyes out. It was so mind blowing. And, I had a trip pre-planned to go to Amsterdam. She was actually going to watch my kids while I was in Amsterdam, and she she passed away. And I could just remember everybody hitting me up like, "Hey, what about the funeral? What about the funeral? What about the funeral?" And I was just like, "Man, fuck this. I don't want to do any of this." So I'm like, "Yo, I'm still going." And
Yeah.
so, thankfully, the mothers of my children was able to hold me down. I was just out, dude. I went by myself, and that's when I stepped into the world of psychedelics with magic truffles, not knowing what I was getting into, not knowing the way to do it, not knowing the dose. I was just like, fuck it. I'm just
Yeah.
taking this and seeing what happens.
Was when you went into did you go into like an actual shop, or did you just buy them from like somebody on the street, just
No,
like
no, I went
truffle?
I went
Okay.
into the actual shop, bro, because
So
I'm
like
in the
did they do a good job of like did they tell you anything, like try to educate you at all, or like where you're like, yo man, like I've never done this before, just give me something, and they're like, here you go.
that actually happened the first time because I
Yeah.
had to go back the next day. The
Uh-huh.
guy gave me some um, and he didn't explain like how to do it, right? On the back of the
Hmm.
box there's some like description of the effects, right? And like the dose, and dude, it was something crazy. It was like 10 grams of magic truffles. I don't know what that equates to mushrooms, but like
Yeah.
it was really really powerful. And he gave me a level 3 because like he asked me a couple questions like, hey, what are you looking for? I'm like, I want to do something like uh not super deep introspective, but I
Hmm.
just want to like crack the door open. He's like,
I want to
okay,
feel
here.
something.
Yeah, he's like, here's a level 3. And dude, it took me like a couple days to like try them because I sat them in my locker and I would
Hmm.
open up the locker, look at them, fucking terrified, close the locker. And I ended up trying them and it made me throw up because I did them wrong. Like I ate right before, made me throw up,
Hmm.
right? So I went back to the store, was like, yo, I don't know what happened. It made me sick. And the guy was like, listen, this is how you do it. Fast, here's another pack. Don't have to pay me for it.
Mhm.
do this, and then come back and let me know what happened. So the second time around is when I did it the right way, and
Mhm.
oh my gosh, it was like fucking wild. It's fucking wild.
What was I mean, like, where do you remember where you took them and then sort of then where you did the trip? Like, were you in the same
Oh
spot the
yeah.
whole time? Were you
Oh
just
no,
wandering around Amsterdam? Like, what were you up to?
bro. So I stayed in the hostel. Right? I'm in a
Mhm.
hostel, and the crazy thing too, like I showed up in Amsterdam, and it was the Electronic World Music Festival, and I didn't even know. Like it happens
Mm.
every October, so the entire world is in Amsterdam, and there's like DJs 24/7 everywhere. So the bottom of my hostel at the first floor, they had a restaurant, and you could smoke in the restaurant, right? So like I took them, and I'm like sitting there like, man, this shit is not fucking working. Like it's just
Mhm.
not gonna work. And I light up a joint, start smoking the joint, and do it like maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes into smoking the joint, the whole fucking restaurant wall starts melting, and I'm like, oh shit, what is going on? Then I immediately ran up into my dorm room, and some crazy shit happened. Like as I'm going upstairs into the dorm room, but there's like one other guy who didn't speak English, like on his iPad watching Netflix. I'm wondering, like, man, does he even know like I'm fucking tripping right now? Like,
Mhm.
you know, So I just hop in my top bunk, and I like put on some headphones. I try to listen to my own music, but I couldn't because it was so fucking depressing. Like a
Mhm.
lot of my music had a lot of pain because I was speaking about moments in my life. I couldn't even listen to that shit. And I started listening to some Bob Marley,
Mhm.
and this lady, I can remember this lady coming in to the room with this fucking luggage, and she had this like a fish design on it, dude. The fucking fish were moving.
Like swimming around.
Yeah, it was swimming around and shit. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so wild. So I'm in my room for like 2 hours. Then I go back downstairs, and I tried to walk around Amsterdam, which was a huge
Mhm.
mistake, because I was actually like 2 blocks away from the red light district, and there's a lot of crazy activity, obviously, in the
Mhm.
red light district, right? Um, dude, I stayed outside for like maybe 20 minutes. I was like, yeah, I'm going back into the hostel, and I'm
Mhm.
sitting here, and thankfully, though, man, I got like some good friends, and I put something up on Instagram like, yo, I don't know what's going on. I took these fucking psychedelics. Like,
Mhm.
I'm fucking terrified. And a couple of my buddies hit me up like, look, this is what you do. Eat something if you want it to come down. Boom, boom, boom.
Mhm.
And they just, they helped me out. And then this guy that I met at the hostel too that same day, he had asked me, he was like, yo, are you everything okay? I'm like, dude, I'm like fucking tripping right now. He's like,
I'm tripping
okay.
balls.
Yeah. He's like, look, I did it 2 days ago. I'm gonna be your sitter. I got you, bro. So he was like super, super helpful. And that it turned into a wonderful night. But at first, man, it was fucking terrifying for
Mhm.
sure.
So then, how soon after that experience, once you got back to the States, did you decide to do mushrooms again?
Fucking immediately. Immediately, dude, because I was like, yo, this was like as crazy as it was. I
Mhm.
wanted to do it again, and actually, I went back to the store to buy some more,
Yeah.
and it didn't work because of my tolerance level,
Yeah.
and I didn't know
It
that
already
at the
built
time.
up over like 2 days now at this
Right?
point.
Yeah, dude. I went to like a level 6,
Uh-huh.
and I was like ready to go in again and like chill out the park, but it didn't work because of the
Like, man,
tolerance
he sold
level.
me some duds.
So yeah, immediately I got back, man. I knew a buddy that could give me access to LSD
Mhm.
and mushrooms. So I was just like in my home for two
Yeah.
years experimenting, not telling
Mhm.
anybody. Like
Yeah.
this is who I'm at.
So I'm curious, like within the Black community, do you see like do you think psychedelic usage is not as high like statistically as within the white community?
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
Mhm.
Like dude, I think it's just like it's awareness and it's education. Now, a lot more people of color are starting to speak about, especially in the Black community.
Mhm.
Um, and even like for myself, it's fucking wild because like a lot of people in my city know me from hip hop,
Yeah.
right? And they see me what I'm doing now. So I actually like lost a few close relationships that I had because like yo, they're like, yo, I don't know what Quest is doing. This
Like
is like
he's
some
like going off the fucking rails. So
yeah.
I listened to this podcast with Lil Yachty and Duncan Trussell,
Mm.
and like Lil Yachty, who's done, I guess, like a fuck ton of acid. He was talking about how like when he first started doing acid, like a lot of his friends and the people in his community like legit thought that he was like going crazy. Like I mean,
Yo,
and
that's
and
the
these are
same
and these are
thing.
the same people that like are like smoking crack, which is what he said, and like doing all these other crazy,
Yo,
drugs that
straight up,
just
bro.
we know are not good for you, but like he was the outcast now because he was doing LSD all the time.
Yeah, bro. It really was that like really was that, bro. Even fucking yoga, dude. Even yoga, like something as small as just like stepping on the mat, taking a moment, doing some stretches, and just like calming down the mind, body, and spirit. Cats were looking at me like, yo, what the fuck is he doing?
Mm-hmm.
And the more I continued along my journey, and they seen that I'm still the same person, but I'm also, evolving, right?
Yeah,
The
like
guys that were like questioning it, they're starting to hit me up now, like, yo, I want to come do some yoga. Like they're starting to show
yeah.
up at my men's retreats and stuff. So, yeah, man. I didn't mean to cut you off. Good, bro.
No, no, no. I honestly I don't even know what the where the fuck that thought was going, but um yeah, it's it's interesting now that you say that those same people that were sort of like, yo, what the fuck's he doing, are now coming back to hit you up, and like that's just what happens, like you staying on the path and you like not letting that back then affect what you're gonna do, and not letting that get in your head, and knowing that like you're doing this. Like were there times on this path where like you thought like, what the fuck am I doing, like am I just gonna give up?
Oh yeah, and dude, and I did actually at one point. Um, yeah, I'll tell you a quick story. So when my mom passed away, I actually walked away from the tech job that I was doing at the time because I just needed some time to myself to process and go through my grieving and stuff like that, right? So I took like 7 months off just to do yoga, meditation, psychedelics, and travel. And it got to a point to where I was doing it way too much, way too much, and moving way too fast. You
Hmm.
know, um, I'm a very deep spiritual individual, like in the spirit realm, all of that. Like I had some
Hmm.
teachers that taught me some things, and as I'm experimenting with the psychedelics, right, I'm also going on shamanic journeys at the same time with these medicines.
Hmm.
And did I know what I was doing? No, but I knew I was being called to go into that direction, right?
Yeah.
And by doing that, I'm opening doors that I had no clue what was behind. And it
Hmm.
got to a point where stuff was starting to become really intense
Yeah.
that I was like, yo, I'm stopping everything. I'm
Hmm.
not doing anything at all. I'm not meditating. I'm not doing yoga. I'm not doing psychedelics. I'm not even fucking doing Reiki. I'm
Yeah.
done. I'm fucking
Like
done.
I'm going back to Johnny Quest.
Yeah, like I'm going back to the Matrix shit. And dude, it got to a point where spirit was like, okay, that's cool. You need to take a break? Take a break. And then I'm like, okay, this is forever. But spirit, I know my path. I know my purpose. It got to a point where it was like, all right, your break is over. It's time to get back to doing the work.
Hmm.
So when I got back into tech, I was like, okay, I got to get back into work because they're knocking at my fucking door. Spirit's knocking
Yeah.
at my door, like, yo, Quest, you got to continue. You got to continue. Like,
And
and I
you're
learned
like,
to accept it.
shut up.
I learned to accept it, and I no longer go back to that. But this was pretty early. This was like in the first couple of years,
Hmm.
um, where I was like, yo, I'm not doing this shit anymore. I don't even want to fucking meditate.
Yeah. So once you got back to tech though, like you still weren't like outwardly talking about like, hey, like I'm into Reiki, I'm into psychedelics. Like, were you still pretty like reserved?
Um, yeah, a little bit because again, like I had to create like two identities
Yeah.
almost. Like I still had my hip hop side that a lot of people knew me as, and then I like
Hmm.
created a whole new social media for you know the wellness and spiritual and psychedelics, and I tried to combine it in the hip hop, but I just like, man, I got to separate this. So I was still promoting just like yoga and Reiki
Mm-hmm.
and more so my own journey of psychedelics, but I wasn't out like educating folks at all. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
know anything about integration at all. It was just like, this is what I'm doing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I think that answers your question. I believe. Does it answer your question? I think maybe.
Yeah, yeah, probably.
Yeah, I started like as I'm answering it, I started to drift off a little bit, but yeah, man, yeah. So
Think of the questions as more just like little nodes, and then the net that then just goes away from it. It's just supposed to just keep kind of just guiding you and just
that's
going
what
from little
happened as
node
I'm
to node.
like
It's not
explaining
it's
it.
not supposed to ever come full circle and like
Yeah,
complete the node. It's just supposed to go off on a little tangent.
yeah, that's what was happening. I was like, oh, let me pull it in, let me pull it in. But yeah, I had to create two separate worlds, and then what I recently came to find out is that I can no longer separate the worlds
Yeah.
because it's all me. The tech, the hip hop, the
Hmm.
wellness, and psychedelics is all who I am, and this is how I have to show up now. All three, the synergies between all.
Yeah. How have psychedelics helped you with, essentially being able to like step into that identity and sort of like stop siloing these separate parts of yourself and actually integrate them into one?
Dude, it fucking happened after I got laid off, dude.
Yeah.
Like, like it got laid. I got laid off, and I'm like, okay, fuck. Like, this is what's next. And yeah, yes, I want it, but it's fucking scary, right?
Hmm.
But I can remember pulling up in my driveway, and I pulled into my garage. Sometimes I'll sit in the car before I go into the house, you know. And I
Hmm.
can remember sitting down in my car, and spirit again just popped up immediately, like, hey, it's time to stop separating who you are. You were in tech because this was part of your purpose, and it's supporting your movement, your purpose, your passion,
Hmm.
right? And you have an opportunity to go back and help the people that are in tech because you can speak their language. You
Yeah.
understand the stressors, and the pressure that comes from working in the tech industry. Like, you're burning yourself out, right? Because the tech is
Hmm.
always about money, 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 money. And
Yeah.
that's when it dawned on me. It was like, listen, all three, the hip hop, the psychedelics, the wellness, psychedelics slash wellness, and then the
Hmm.
technology. Like, it's who you are, and you need to show up as that
Hmm.
because you're going to be able to speak to a lot of different people,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, it's something new, man, and it's been a really freeing to
Yeah.
like embody that.
I like still struggle with the tech part being part of like my identity as well, because I was in tech sales for 3 years, and
Right.
towards the end just feeling just burnt out as fuck. And now it's been almost a year now since I got laid off from that job. And you know I'd be lying to you if I said I haven't thought about going back, but like purely for the money is the thing, because like
I
it's great money and it's easy, but it's like it's kind of like money for what? Like I try to think like, how do we merge these two
know.
things? How can we make tech not such like a soul sucking job?
Yeah, man.
Like how can we really come together and make it so we are truly making the world a better place here,
Hmm.
and not just creating money for the sake of creating money, which
Yeah.
is especially on the sales side, like that's what it really feels like we're
Right. Yeah. You're
doing.
really
Like,
hustling.
uh-huh. And so it's like I know there's a way. Like, I never believe that something is impossible and that, oh, this just sucks and this is the way it is. There are solutions to all of the problems out there.
For
It's
sure.
just we need enough people to want to put their minds to figuring it out. And that's why, I think I can sort of still speak that language too. And we're going through this shift, just I
Yes,
think
we are.
in the whole earth right now, of like, how do we more consciously live and create and respect this earth that we live on.
Mm.
And so I think that within tech, especially, just given how huge of an industry it is and how broad it is, like that shift needs to occur.
Yeah, it needs to occur, man. And I feel you too. I think there is a solution. Um, I don't have it
Nope,
right
neither do
now,
I.
right? I know there is a solution, right? And it's, you look at like the companies in Silicon Valley, the
Mm-hmm.
CEOs coming out, oh, no, I do psychedelics to help me stay focused, right?
Yeah,
And like,
exactly. Like I'm doing this so I can grind for 8 hours a day without fucking taking a single break. And I'm like,
yeah,
you're missing the point.
yeah, like, even Elon Musk came out talking about he does ketamine
Ketamine for
for his
depression.
depression,
Hmm.
depression. Um, yeah, man, I think there's definitely a way. Um, and maybe you and I down the road can figure that out together.
I hope so. See, and
You
then
know?
and but here's the thing too, that there all also are really good companies out there that are, I think on the forefront of
For
the
sure.
sort of psychedelic mainstream, like Dr. Bronner's, for example. I think is probably one of the best examples. Again, that's not a tech company, but
Hmm.
they are a fairly large company that like really provides these benefits and is very, very outwardly spoken for the use of psychedelics.
Yeah,
And so like the more people that you have talking about psychedelics in like the more respectful, intentional way, and by the way, I have nothing against recreational use.
yeah.
I
Neither do
use
I.
psychedelics recreationally all the time still. It's about intention set and setting.
Yeah, no.
So that's it. Like once you have a grasp on that, like I think you're pretty good to go. But I still think that there's some people within the community though that like are still too like narrow minded about like, oh no, like you have to be using these intentionally and with in a fucking ceremony every single
Mm.
time. And it's like I just I disagree.
Dude, I went. I'm gonna tell you a funny story because again, it started for me for recreational, right?
Yeah.
Love the recreational, love it. Like, what I mean, putting on a great playlist, whatever. Like, I fucking love it. And as I'm learning about the ceremonial ways and, indigenous cultures, because again, I didn't know any of this shit,
Hmm.
right? And um, I started to fall into that trap. Like, every time needs to be a ceremony.
Hmm.
Every time needs to be a ceremony, right? And that's got to be super serious all the time. And yo, I can remember, I can remember one night where I set up to do my own ceremony, right?
Hmm.
Get connected with the mushroom, take the mushroom, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be meet with my ancestors and
Do
blah blah
some
blah blah
work.
blah. This is just deep work. Mushroom was like, nope, we're having fun tonight because you're taking this shit too serious. You're
Yeah.
having fun, dude. It was the wildest, funnest journey I've ever had. And it was a blast. But they were like, yo, you're taking this too serious. Remember where you started from. You started from the
Hmm.
recreational, right? Yeah, both sides are important. So I always
Yeah.
carry that with me now because, yeah, I see it now. Everybody's like, well, no, well, not say everybody, but most people like, yo, serious, serious, serious. But
Yeah.
recreational was important too,
Yeah.
right?
It is like, I mean, just having fun is like such an important part of our existence as humans. Like we're
Mm-hmm.
supposed to have fun. Like one of the very first things that I vividly remember from when I was recreationally using LSD was like the download of saying like, man, like life is supposed to be fun. Like, yes,
Right.
you're on LSD right now and you're obviously having fun, but like you're supposed to have fun outside of this too. Like
Yeah.
stop taking shit so seriously.
Yeah.
Like none of it, if you're just taking it seriously at the end of the day to like reach this end goal that like doesn't actually exist, like if you're not having fun while you're doing it, you're not going to have fun once you get there either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm not a serious person to begin with. To be
Hmm.
honest, dude, I'm like a big ass kid. What they say,
I used to
I
be
don't
so
want to grow up.
serious. Like
I'm a
now I
Toys
am.
R Us kid.
Like yeah, we're just supposed to have like a silly good time all the
Yeah,
time. There's no reason we shouldn't. Like
play's
so
important, man.
yeah.
Play's important. You know.
Hmm. Yeah, I definitely struggle with that too. Coming back from ayahuasca last year, then
Wow.
thinking like that's like a relatively sort of serious like deep work undertaking,
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for
and
sure.
like after that I was like I was literally debating. I'm like, is it disrespectful to like the ayahuasca if I even take mushrooms. Like, am I even allowed to do this again?
Wow. Okay.
Like, and it was a whole struggle like with that. And like I would then only do, anytime I take mushrooms, it'd be like intentional journeys, like for deep work.
Wow.
And then eventually it kind of, like, it got to the point where it's like, again, the download came, you're supposed to have fun. Like,
Yeah.
you can do the deep work, but like if you're just focused, and like this goes to anybody regardless of whether you're using psychedelics or not, but like you can't just be focused on doing the deep serious work and trying to heal all of your traumas all at once and just getting
Mm,
deep in there. Like, it's not going to work. It's too
nah.
much at once.
It's
Like,
too much.
you need to integrate.
Yeah. It's too much. Too much on the nervous system. Like too much shit happening. And that's really interesting that you brought that up. Sitting with Mother Aya and like having that thought about if you can interact with the sacred mushrooms in that
Mhm.
way. For me, speaking for me personally, I think it just like comes down to respect and reverence, right? They know, right? They know
Mhm.
you and I are genuine people. Like these are intelligent beings that have been here for many,
Yeah.
many years, right? So they
Speaking
know,
of
like,
speaking of tech, by the way, like this is technology. Like the mushrooms, like
yeah,
the
yes, it is.
ayahuasca, like this
Indigenous
is this is a
technology, yeah,
technology that
yes,
has
it
been
is.
passed down for generations. We don't think
Yes,
of
it
it
is.
that way because now every time we think of tech, we're thinking, oh, phones, computers, like,
Right. No, it's just
digital,
technology,
internet, all
bro.
that stuff. But like this is technology.
Yeah, no, it really is. It really is. I learned that from Kalindi EE. Are you familiar with
Nah.
Kalindi EE? Yeah, you should look him up, man. He talks about being a explorer with the mushroom and how it's very, it goes beyond doing the deep work. Like you can travel,
Yeah.
interdimensional travel, and that after this, I'll send you a couple podcasts, and it's going to be like you're listening to a Marvel movie. So that's what got me into like the technology, understanding that this is technology, right? Even with
Hmm.
the certain crystals and things like that, this is all technology that
Hmm.
we have access to. But it's important to move with respect and reverence at the same time for these sacred medicines as well. I believe.
Yeah, for sure. I actually want to ask you about Reiki. So I've never done a Reiki session before.
Yeah.
I like I'm familiar with the concept of it, but like as
Okay.
far as like a deep dive, like tell me a little bit more about that practice. One, how you actually got into that to begin with, and then um I guess how you use it, like what it's used for, like how it can
Yeah,
help
yeah,
people.
for sure, man. Again, just like as I mentioned before, there's downloads and insights, right? I can remember meditating, and I had a vision of my hands glowing and like this yellow light beaming out my hands. And the next day, I didn't know what Reiki was at this time. I had the meditation, right? The next day or two afterwards, my friend that I was speaking with, really close friend, she was like the only one I can confide to about what was going on because she's already into that world and out in the open with it. And she sends me a Reiki training. She's like, "Hey, I think you might like this." So it's just like, wow, okay. I started looking it up, and it's energy healing with the hands, right? So it just
Hmm.
all made sense, and I was just going down the rabbit hole and following it. And so Reiki stands for Universal Life Force. It's pretty much a form of Japanese shamanism, energy healing, and Reiki in different cultures. It's called like chi, prana. Really, we're breathing it in. It's keeping everything alive, right?
Hmm.
Trees, birds, and we're all breathing it in. So, as a Reiki practitioner, this universal life force that's all around the world in the universe, I'm a conduit. I'm a straw. So I'm simply just opening up because I'm connected to that, and it's passing through me as I pass it on to the client or person that I'm working with. Now, at that point, what I like to explain to people is that you want to envision Reiki energy as a clean bucket of pure water, right? This unlimited resource that we have access to that's keeping us alive. Again, chi, the prana, right? We're breathing it in. That's a clean bucket of pure water coming through. and going into our systems and flushing out the mud and all the stuff that we accumulate over the time in our life.
Hmm.
So it's going to hit the emotional areas, the mind, the body and spirit. And it's essentially clearing pathways for what you need in your life. And, you're dropping off the things that you no longer need, which could be careers, it could be relationships, it could be habits, right? All this stuff is being shifted and you're creating space for the stuff that you need. So, as a Reiki practitioner, sessions are normally like 35 to 45 minutes, but you're
Hmm.
essentially the person's laying on a massage table, and the Reiki practitioner's hands can either be on the person or like 6 inches above.
Hmm.
And what the person might feel, it could be like warmth. I won't say like really like heat, but just like warmth. It might be like cold. Somebody might get like visions or see colors or numbers or just kind of like any messages that you might have waiting for you on the other side can essentially come through in a Reiki session. So um, yeah, it's really just like another tool that we can use, similar to acupuncture, right? The acupuncture
Yeah.
hitting meridian points, clearing out that stagnant energy that we might have in our system. Very similar to Reiki, just another way of doing it.
Gotcha. Now we're getting to sort of the ends here, so I want to wrap up on
Wow, already?
more of a
That's
yeah,
crazy.
man. I know. I want to wrap up on sort of a fun question. Maybe it's something we already covered, maybe it's not, but like since you've started going down this path with psychedelics and
Mhm.
the retreats and Reiki and integration, what's been one or a couple of the most unexpected things that have happened to you since you've started on this path?
Mm, just like personally, or just okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, wow. Um,
Things that you've learned, things you've realized, things that have happened to you, like anything like that.
all right, I'm gonna share this. I won't go into too much detail, but like walking this path again has really shown like how connected I am to spirit, and that this is what I'm meant to do. So like having that ability and connection to spirit can sometimes be overwhelming, right? And I can remember um, having a dream a couple of months ago that someone close to me was sick, and I woke up from the dream, called the person in like a couple of weeks, like, "Hey, how you doing? Like, is everything good? You were in my dream and seeing that you were sick." And the person revealed to me that they are indeed sick and that having some super strange health issues. And 2 months later down the road, they finally went to the doctor, and what I shared, what I saw in my dream, very specific answers and details about the sickness became true. So that's one thing that can be overwhelming, but at the same time, like I'm also grateful because it's
Hmm.
preparing me for the stuff that's happening in my life. Um, really, really wild thing. And then the other thing that I can share with you is that this is going to sound wild, but
I love it.
I call myself the saucy sorcerer, all
Yeah.
right? And you know, I don't want to call myself a shaman, but I can call myself a sorcerer because what does anybody want to say? Oh, you can't call yourself a sorcerer. I'm like, you're a sorcerer, right? But I'm a saucy one, and being in that and like owning it. Part of my purpose here is to step in between both worlds and also be in the dark and the light, right? So sometimes in my life, at another time, you and I can have a conversations, but it seems like I'm in the episode of Ghostbusters,
Hmm.
right? Like doing house clearings and helping people out, kicking shit away and sending it to the pearly gates. Like it's pretty fucking wild, dude. And at the same time, like I go back to, when I was working, I would go back to my 9 to 5 and like
Yeah.
try to live
Be
this
like,
normal life.
like, hey guys, you trying to deploy this code or?
Yeah, yeah. Like, and just last night, I was fucking battling entities and demons and shit like that. Like,
Mhm.
fucking crazy.
Yeah, like walking between worlds. Like, do you, when you say that, do you have like a channel, or like do you put yourself into like, okay, now I'm going to be in this world, now I'm going to be in this world, or like does it just kind of happen and like you just need to stay centered and grounded and like understand where you are at that point?
It's a combination of both. It's gotten to a point to where spirit respects my boundaries.
Yeah,
But I had to state my boundaries. At first, it was before, it was just like
yeah,
when I
one
wasn't
after the
expecting
other.
it, right? And but now, like, I have a feeling. I'm like, okay, what are y'all trying to say? Let me sit down for a minute and I can tune in. But it's also on demand too, where I can like simply take a few breaths, do my little thing in my mind, and I can get there, right?
Yeah.
And have a conversation in the spirit world with whatever I need to do. Like,
Hmm.
it's pretty fucking wild shit. It's like picking up a cell phone, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I can like talk to my mom. Like, after this, I might hit her up because her birthday was on October 1st, and I celebrated it, but we didn't have a like a personal one-on-one conversation. It's pretty fucking wild shit, dude. Like, it's like fucking a movie sometimes.
That's fucking awesome, man. I fucking love it. Thank you so much for coming on, man. Before we officially go, I guess, is there anything that you want to tell people about what you're up to and things that you have going on in your life right now?
No, I appreciate it, man. I'm really, really grateful for this opportunity, dude. So yeah, right now what we have going on, I'm actually going to be hosting a men's psychedelic integration circle. The first and third Tuesday of the month with TAM integration.
Mhm.
It's going to be myself and my brother Dante, who he also is the founder of Mycelial Mente. So it's going to be us two running the men's psychedelic integration circle every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Sorry, not every
Yeah, yeah,
Tuesday.
yeah.
Yeah, the
First and
first and
third.
third. Yeah, first and third Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. It's online on Zoom. It's free. People want to donate, they can. So that's the next big thing coming up, and just really, stepping into and this integration role, right? I've been learning. I just recently graduated from TAM integration. I worked with some people while I was going through the training, and also went through the Condor coach. But it's just like really stepping into that and providing these spaces for men. Really, love the ladies, but they have a lot of spaces for them,
Hmm.
and us men need to have some sacred spaces. So that's the next thing. And if anybody wants to stay in tune with what I have going on, they can reach out to me at my website, questtoconduit.com. Has everything on there: the music, the art, the wellness, psychedelics, saucy sorcerer things that I do. It's all
Yeah.
there.
Hell yeah, brother. Well, thank you again so much. I appreciate you. I love you.
Appreciate you,
And
man.
we'll stay in touch.
Yes. Thank you so much, bro.
That concludes this episode of the Trip Sitting Podcast with Jonathan Quest Brown. Thank you so much again for coming on. I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your energy, and I appreciate your presence. Thank you so much again. And thank you to everybody else who took the time to listen and who took the time to get all the way to the end. I appreciate that. I realize there's a lot of other things that you could be doing with your time. And the fact that you're here with me really does just mean the world. So until we meet again, thank you.